drive, even though it hurts, because Cory Gardner is the great senator from the great state of Colorado. He's behind, but he's about doing his own drive right now. Hey, Cory, welcome back to the program, Senator.
Hey, thank you, Hugh, and thanks for reminding me of great times in Colorado.
Oh, just because I bring it up, don't mean you don't have to twist the knife. Look, you are said to be behind in polls. How are you campaigning through the tape?
Well, look, we are all over the state. Yesterday, I was down in Colorado Springs meeting with the veterans, meeting with community leaders. Today, we're going to be all over the state virtually, Zoom meetings, get out the vote rallies. We were on the Front Range yesterday. And look, this is reminding me of a song from Les Miserables, a little twist on that. It's 5 days more, 1 day more, 5 days more. We got to work hard to make sure we get every vote in.
Now, John Ralston covers Nevada like nobody's business. He reports in Nevada that Republicans are up in the rural votes by 30,000 ballots and 28 percentage points over this point in the vote in 2016. He thought that the Republicans might get more than 70,000 votes this cycle, and he just, quote, I may have underestimated it. Do you see the same thing in Colorado, Senator Gardner, that the rural and near rural vote is overperforming?
Well, it makes sense in 2020, and here's why. In 2014, I got more votes out of rural Colorado than any other Republican had. And in 2016, the president did better. Donald Trump did better than I did. And that makes sense. And it makes sense, too, because the agenda that Joe Biden and John Hickenlooper are talking about would devastate and destroy agriculture, oil and gas, resource development, the things that rural Colorado needs, rural America needs to survive. They are dead set against.
Later this morning, we're going to get a GDP number. The whisper from the Wall Street Journal is it's going to be huge. Will that make an impact on Coloradans?
I think it absolutely will. Look, people are wanting to know that tomorrow is going to be better than today. They've been through hell the last 6 months, and they're going to see that improve as we have every single step of the way, and we have to continue. And they know that we can get through this together. We've seen job numbers increase in Colorado. We've seen businesses reopen in Colorado. Now you have a push to start shutting things down again. You have John Hickenlooper, who would actually have already closed the Colorado economy down based on the things that he said he would do when testing reached a certain level. But I think Coloradans are also aware that John Hickenlooper and his plan to destroy 230,000 jobs in Colorado is not a way to jumpstart an economy and bring it back to life.
Senator Gardner, when you heard the last debate and Joe Biden said he would transition from the oil industry, I just told Chuck Todd I think that's going to be the most memorable thing. Chuck said, no, it'll be COVID. I think it's transitioning from the oil industry. What do you think?
Well, absolutely. Look, I think the people of this country understand, and in Colorado, they understand very clearly how many millions of people are involved in energy. Just a year or two ago, Colorado voters were asked whether they wanted to ban oil and gas. That's what John Hickenlooper wants to do. The people of Colorado overwhelmingly rejected that plan because they understand the importance of jobs and our economy, the $31 billion part of our GDP just in the state alone, what oil and gas means. They don't want to see 230,000 families out of work and on the streets. That's the Hickenlooper-Biden plan, and I think people see through it.
Now, Senator Gardner, I want to compliment you on yesterday's questioning of Jack Dorsey of Twitter. I am personally of the opinion that Section 230 protection ought to be revoked, if not entirely, then partially, because of allowing the Ayatollah Khamenei to be an anti-Semitic, Holocaust-denying, mass murder inciting fanatic who is unpatrolled by Jack Dorsey. Were you satisfied with Mr. Dorsey's responses to you?
Oh, absolutely not. Look, the Ayatollah Khomeini was tweeting and mocking and trolling Twitter in the middle of the hearing. You could see it. This is incredible that we would see conservative speech be censored, but yet somebody who denies that millions of people were slaughtered in the Holocaust by a nation that is still actively trying to wipe out Israel, just let it go, because that's not misinformation that qualifies under the Twitter standards of labeling. They're more likely to label, Joe Biden saying George Lopez is what he was talking about instead of George Bush.
So what did you take away from that here? And your colleagues across the aisle, do they share this concern?
It's hard to tell what they share because yesterday they were defending big tech and it was a political sham and illegitimate. Everything that they don't like seems to be illegitimate and a sham. They're going to have to come up with some new words, I think, to use. So I hope that they, in my private conversations with them, they absolutely are concerned. They're concerned about privacy. I'm concerned about privacy. They're concerned about power and monopolies in these social media platforms. That's not what you heard yesterday, because to them it's all about election.
Now, I want to close, Senator Gardner, by talking about the Great American Outdoors Act. I wrote in the Washington Post this week that I hope the new court, which includes Justice Barrett, who you voted for this week, will resurrect the Fifth Amendment's prohibition on takings without compensation. The Great
Yes.
American Outdoors Act is intended to help in that regard. Would you explain to people what the problem is and why your law is going to address it?
That's exactly right. The Great American Outdoors Act has been described as the holy grail of conservation bills by the Nature Conservancy. It's the biggest conservation accomplishment since Teddy Roosevelt, really. And it provides funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is dollars that can be used for willing sellers, and they cannot offer outrageous sums of money to convince or bribe somebody to sell a piece of property. They have to follow the market. There's a formula that prevents them from putting a deal that's too good to be true on the table. So it's making sure that we're protecting private property rights, making sure that we're not creating an unfair marketplace, but also doing so in a way that will help avoid the takings of lands that flies in the face of that Fifth Amendment you just talked about.
It's the way around the Endangered Species Act and the Clean Water Act's enormous burdens on individual landowners. They are both well-intentioned laws. They've had the consequence of destroying the livelihoods of farmers, ranchers, landowners, developers, home builders. You know it better. You've got your own crazy species set in Colorado. You know this, but the way out is to buy the land that's impacted.
That's right. That's right. And buy the land from willing sellers, not use any overt pressure or too much government power. This is about a willing seller opportunity, and this is paid for through no cost to the taxpayer. It's using offshore oil and gas revenues, although Joe Biden and John Hickenlooper want to destroy that. So, in essence, they want to destroy the Great American Outdoors Act as well.
So, Senator Gardner, what is your closing message to Colorado voters who are listening right now?
If you haven't voted, get out and vote. Get out and vote for Cory Gardner. Turn them into a drop box as soon as you can. We need those votes in. We're going to fight hard for every part of this state, not just the liberal parts, not just the blue parts, but make sure that all four corners of Colorado have a fighter and a doer, somebody who believes in solutions for this great state.
Senator Gardner, run through the tape. I know you will. Thank you for joining me. He is a great, great senator.